Hi students, welcome to Science Extension and Module 1, the Foundations of Scientific Thinking. Once again, we're going to try and cover a couple of different concepts within the one video, which I will split up into smaller sections, because this time we want to have a look at some of the ethical frameworks that may impact on scientific research. So we want to analyse the influence of ethical frameworks on scientific research over time, including but not limited to human experimentation, experimentation on animals, biobanks, and the use of research data. The first area that we want to look at as an application of ethics is in human experimentation. Human experimentation refers to scientific investigations of humans. It excludes studies in other areas such as social science, education, etc. Human experimentation may involve manipulation, such as clinical trials, or be purely observational. The history of human experimentation is a mixed one. Although our knowledge of human biology advanced in leaps and bounds through experimentation, many of those studies would not be conducted in the original manner in which they were if they were conducted today. One example is the vaccines developed by Edward Jenner. In May 1796, Edward Jenner found a young dairymaid, Sarah Nelms, who had fresh cowpox lesions on her hands and arms. On May 14, 1796, using matter from Nelms' lesions, he inoculated an 8-year-old boy, James Phipps. Subsequently, the boy developed mild fever and discomfort in the axillae, the armpits, basically. 9 days after the procedure, he felt cold and had lost his appetite, but on the next day, he was much better. In July 1796, Jenner inoculated the boy again, this time with matter from a fresh smallpox lesion. No disease developed, and Jenner concluded that protection was complete. The problem with this was we don't know anything about consent. We don't know who spoke on behalf of the boy and whether or not he was a willing participant in this research. We don't understand exactly how serious smallpox is as a disease because it's virtually been eradicated these days. So we don't quite understand the potential danger that this young boy was in when he was inoculated by Edward Jenner's smallpox. But we celebrate Edward Jenner's discovery of the impact of vaccines, and today we use vaccines very widely to help protect large numbers of our population against a whole range of different infectious diseases. Whilst Edward Jenner is credited with the first scientific demonstration of the effectiveness of vaccination, and strictly speaking, Jenner's method is called variolation, and we now know that there's lots of different ways of producing vaccines. By today's standards, Jenner's studies on vaccine and variolation would be considered unethical. Perhaps of even more concern is the Tuskegee syphilis study. When details of the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis experiment was revealed to the public, it raised an uproar internationally. In this study, 399 syphilitic and 201 non-syphilitic African American men were part of a study to determine the physiological effects of syphilis infections on humans. If you read the synopsis of the research on their website, you might notice the following. Participants were not told that they were involved in a human experiment. Participants were given inducements to take part in the experiment. And participants were denied treatment for syphilis infections even though the treatment became available during the study. This and many other very concerning from an ethical point of view incidents in the history of science are covered by Stephen Jay Gould in his book, The Mismeasure of Men. What are the consequences of some of these past studies on what we do in research today? Well, the National Health and Medical Research Council has a set of ethical frameworks that we can work through that cover all of those areas that we looked at earlier. All human experimentation in Australia is governed by ethical frameworks developed by the National Health and Medical Research Council, the NHMRC. These ethical frameworks are based on the same principles of universal ethics. The 4 key frameworks are research merit and integrity, justice including beneficence, non-maleficence and beneficence, and respect. In Australia, at institutions that undertake human research, all research proposals must be approved by the HREC, which is usually the Human Resources Ethics Committee. Human research cannot be conducted without an ethics permit. The HRECs consist of researchers and non-researchers as well as community members. The HRECs evaluate applications based on how is the research question or theme identified or developed, how do the research methods align with the research aims, how will the researchers and the participants engage with one another, how will the research data or information be collected, stored and used, how will the results or outcomes be communicated, and what will happen to the data and information upon completion of the project.